finding the right industrial designer to help you achieve your vision from A to Z, right? Like we talked about, which is understanding the product and what it does and your vision of, whether it's a luxury market or it's a mass market, making sure that, you understand how the factories work and having those relationships. So I think, that's been pivotal in terms of my success because, I could have hired somebody who came up with a completely different design and it flopped.
Welcome, everybody. I am Ian MacColl, and I am a professor of industrial design at the California College of Arts, and I'm the founder of icm.studio, a consulting practice focused on international clients, teaching them merchant-centric design techniques to get product into retailers. I'm joined today by Kerry Benjamin, the founder of StackedSkincare. Hi, Kerry. How are you today?
Good. Hi, Ian. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you as well. Kerry is in my mind this great entrepreneur, and we got to start working together back in 2014. And she's really been an inspiration, in some ways a mentor, as we've partnered together to develop her product line, her beauty tool product line. So we'll get into that. But Kerry, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us, how did this journey into StackedSkincare start? Where did that?
Sure. Well, thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. I have been a lifelong struggle with my skin, with my eczema. And so back in 2010-ish, I left my former career and transitioned into an esthetician to try to basically figure out how to help myself and help other people. From there, I built a really successful skincare practice, and then I started combining or stacking different modalities with active ingredients. And that's where the StackedSkincare brand was born. And that's where the foundation of the product line. So I took that same concept, hired you and said, hey, how do we make these professional tools safe and affordable for people to use at home to get the same results that I'm giving them in the spa? And that was really how we started working together. You flew down, you watched me do facials, and you videoed and sketched. And then we just kind of took off from there and started building a whole suite of different tools for people to use at home.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to drill deeper on some of those things there. But I guess first, your background before becoming an esthetician, I think you were working at Microsoft and technology and all of that. Where were you before, and how did that sort of give you the courage to then go out and launch this business?
Yeah. So I spent about 15 years in the digital media space. I started in digital media before it even existed, in 1997 in San Francisco. I was one of the very first people to work for Microsoft's MSN division. I spent many years there and then worked for a startup, and then DoubleClick that eventually got bought by Google. So I had, through that experience, really developed a lot of really great business acumen. And I think that really helped me a lot in the business aspect. So I needed to learn how to be an esthetician and skincare. And, I really felt like it was important to be able to become a skincare expert, not only because I was struggling so much with my own skin, but I wanted that credibility and that authenticity and that really that understanding of what I was doing. I didn't feel like I could build a credible skincare brand just by saying I had eczema. And, I really felt like building that expertise. And I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted a product line, but I didn't start out that way. I started out with, I'm going to go be the best esthetician that I can be. Mm-hmm. And with that level of understanding and that level of expertise, and then my business acumen, I think those things combined allowed me to really be a successful entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Because I had a really strong why. And I always ask other entrepreneurs, and I think it's a very common statement, right? But my why was very personal. And I had a lot of empathy for people also that had troubled skin. And so having to build that relationship with my clients one-on-one, as I was just in the spa to start, really helped to, formulate a lot of my opinions about skincare and the skincare methodology that I ultimately developed.
Yeah. I mean, you've used some great words in there, which you got at by actually practicing what you were doing, what you were experiencing personally, and then helping others with that and caring for them. That's great. And then,
And now it's like we get to help so many more people, which has been such an amazing experience. And I love getting the reviews. And I mean, we get emails from people all the time. Some of them bring me to tears of like how much I've helped them. And, that's really the best part of my job, is being able to see that person, feeling and looking insecure, having a lot of makeup on, to like walking in the door beaming, no makeup, feeling really good about themselves. And that's, probably the most rewarding thing ever.
yeah, and that's so much of our psyche is sort of how we feel we're presenting to others. And so the
So
fact you knew that, you were completely sensitive to that. Uh,
yeah, I'm very empathetic. I mean, I always had, when I was younger, I had eczema on my face, like around my eyes, and people would tell me that looks painful. And when you tell a little girl her face looks painful, it, kind of shatters you. And so I really, really came from a very empathetic place when people would come in with, severe skin issues, and that desire to help them and then see that is just, like I said, really, really rewarding. And I'm like so happy for them.
So you as an esthetician, you were doing treatments on people, primarily their faces, but other parts of their bodies as well. Did you find opportunity that's like, well, these products on the market that, and speaking now of like the serums and the lotions and all of those, were you thinking, well, there are things on the market here that aren't quite doing what I need them to do? And did you start to kind of innovate because that's the company started really with that line of products that you apply to your face.
It started with a microneedling tool, a peel, and a serum, which is the foundation of Stack Skincare. It's, using, so it was before we designed our microneedling tool. It was, it was just a white labeled product because, the way that I approached starting Stack Skincare, it was, I'm self-funded. And so I started really small, and I paid a lot for the product, but I understood that if I could scale this business, that my profitability would go off the charts. But I was like, okay, I'm going to buy, a couple hundred units and test this concept. And nobody was really at that time, this is going back to 2015, nobody was really combining tools and active ingredients. So it was really innovative.
Mhm.
And microneedling was really just being talked about, as well as dermaplaning. I mean, people just weren't really talking about these things, especially from a consumer standpoint, being able to do this at home. You would go in for a treatment and pay a lot of money. I was trying to make this accessible at home and safe.
Mhm.
So the point that I'm getting at is, yes, so the foundation was always combining a tool with a peel and a serum, for maximum efficacy to drive those ingredients down in deeper. And so, yeah, I started with a couple hundred units. And once we sold out of those and kept growing, I was able to have more purchasing power and then start working with you to design our own tools.
So you're selling direct to consumer at this point. You've got your practice going on. You're having customers that way. You're creating now a direct to consumer practice and doing that. Did you find that experience you had before in marketing and advertising was really informing what you were able to do and achieve?
I think that it helped me a lot when I started, for sure, with the skincare practice, because I understood SEO and marketing and like how to get clients in. And then, it definitely for sure helped me with, because I was specifically in e-commerce when I was working at Microsoft. So my clients were big retailers that, were just, and this is going back a long time ago. So they were like, they had e-commerce stores, like Sephora and Restoration, big brands that were in the Bay Area.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I took a lot of that fundamental knowledge and, brought it over here. Still had to learn a ton. I didn't, not only skin, but I didn't know anything about running an operation and buying product and moving it from, one place to another and developing products, trademarks, patents, legal, HR. So, I was learning on the job for sure. But being able to leverage that business acumen that I had, developed over many years.
Yeah, yeah. In some ways, this was your business school, sort of while you were building the business.
Yeah, I never had a mentor or a coach, and I don't know why. I mean, it's sort of my personality. It wasn't because I didn't think I could benefit from somebody. I don't really know. I think first of all, I was just doing, I was just heads down. And then I don't think I really knew where or how to find one.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of figured it out on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So,
I don't necessarily recommend that.
right. Find somebody who you can trust and grow with, and
I think that's, always a good strategy probably, but it just wasn't one that I implemented.
yeah, yeah, I got it. Right. So around 2014, you and I were introduced, which was great, and we, and you had this vision of like, okay, I'm sourcing these tools, and we'll get into what microneedling and dermaplaning are for the audience, but you were sourcing these tools in white label in Asia, and then you wanted to build your own, right? These were kind of commodity products that were out there, and it was like, okay, well, how do we make this? You're branded. You had this premium vision of your brand. You're in health and beauty, and so there's advertising, there's marketing, there's expense associated with that. So so we're thinking about your margins. But we started with really me flying down to Los Angeles and spending time with you in your studio and watching you work with your patients. And that was, of course, what would I have known about microneedling and dermaplaning at that point in my life? But you were you brought me down. We spent time together and sort of talked about it. And I think that to your point, that it really informs what we're doing. It helps us understand exactly who we're designing for, the needs. You're describing how you're doing it and how you're holding the skin and what the grip is and how you're changing it. And then during lunch, we're talking about your values on sustainability and the way you think of really helping people and being there to assist them. So I thought that was just a wonderful way, for us to sort of kick things off. And I think we got a lot of insights from that. So
Oh yeah.
you want to add anything to that, or?
No, I mean, I think it was like the best way to do it, and also just getting to know you, because we've obviously formed a really tight friendship over now, I guess 20, is that 20 years? Wait, no,
No,
12, 13, 14, something. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So, getting to know me and understanding like my objectives. And it was really interesting watching from my perspective, you work, right? Because I've never worked with an industrial designer before. And so I learned a tremendous amount as well. And I thought it was really interesting how, you were videoing and sketching, and then, the evolution of how these things got put together, right? And it's like first there was sketches, and then I think we did some 3D. Well, we would, go back and forth on the sketches, and then you would print out the 3Ds and just kind of start to see this thing come to life. It was really fun.
Yeah.
And then we went into like sampling and things like that.
So let's start with the dermaplaning tool, and I have one here in front of me. Can you first, I guess, describe to people what is dermaplaning?
Dermaplaning is an exfoliation technique using a single edge blade. So in a professional setting, we use a 10-blade scalpel. And the reason why you want a really sharp blade is because it's not going to irritate the skin, and you're going to get the maximum amount of dead skin and peach fuzz off. So if you're using something like an eyebrow shaver, they usually have like a guard on it, and it can be very irritating on the skin. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because your task and mine was to figure out how we can get the sharpest blade possible, but still make it safe to use at home so people wouldn't nick and cut themselves. So you can't obviously use a scalpel on your face at home unless you're trained. So that was really what I had tasked Ian with, was how do we take this scalpel and make it safe for people to use at home and make it sustainable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is great. And I think what I learned is you're removing skin and some hair from the face to sort of create that freshness. And it's something that I do pretty much every day, which is shaving, removing hair and skin from my face. And I think you had told me that, well, men tend to have pretty soft faces as a result of the daily shaving ritual that they do. So that made me think, and it's like, okay, women shave also, but they don't shave their face. And so that's not a thing, right? That doesn't feel right psychologically for women to do. And you'd been using, yes, these scalpels, and it's like, okay, well, that's a different technique. It's a different way to think about removing that material from the face. How do we create sort of something premium? I'll turn this around for your brand, premium and super simple. And the sketches in the beginning were kind of drew a rectangle, and then removed one of the corners. And that that kind of, when you have something that's understood and expected, which is that rectangle, and then you remove one thing, that's where the interest goes. That's where the eye is drawn. And we wanted to create priority, obviously, where the business was happening on this, on the product, right? And ergonomically played with that angle to get that right, over many iterations, got the angle right. Removing material from around the outside of it to get, the right angle of attack, because you're not using it horizontally, you're, or a 90.
You wanted at a 45-degree angle to your skin. And so we kind of notched that out so that it would naturally lay on the skin the right way.
Right, right, right. And then putting together, sort of the details around that, keeping, you wanted as I mentioned, sustainability, you wanted a sustainable product. So the idea was always to sort of do razor blade, where we have a separate handle that can be reused. And we made this out of aluminum, which is very recyclable and very durable, right? Will last a long, long time. And then these end up in landfill for the most part, but it's a very small part of the product instead of throwing the handle and the whole thing away. And then we spent a lot of time thinking about how it should connect and disconnect, right? And we're trying to be very thoughtful about how that feels, how that's done, thinking about safety, and that, like, for example, as I'm pushing down with the blade, it holds it on tighter. It's never going to sort of fall off while I'm using it. So that was important. And then the cover, which can only go on one way, the cover has this nice
snap
as it goes on it. And all of those things, I think, and that, the way,
and even like the tip, like we covered the tip of the blade for even more safety.
Yep. Right.
And that was I think we'd gone through a couple different iterations of that as well. And we ended on let's cover the tip.
Yeah, exactly. And because the scalpel you had been using was open at the end, and which was fine for you as a professional, but for people at home, this seemed to make more sense. And so in the in the end, having done this for a long time, it doesn't, projects often don't come together, and that you get most of what you want, you don't get everything that you want. And I think what has been so great in working with you, and was really great on this project, is we kind of got everything we wanted, and you had the right values, and you cared about the same details, and you're a great client, right? You're a great client and entrepreneur who saw the vision and, like, had the faith, I think, to partner with somebody else to get there, and turned out with a very, I'm extremely proud of this product.
Me too. I mean, she's won all kinds of awards, from Oprah to New Beauty, Birdie, anywhere in between. She's everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm super proud of it too. And, people love it. It's been wildly successul for this brand. And that was our first one.
Yeah.
That was just the first one.
Right. And part of that, we don't have to dwell too long, but part of it was setting up your supply chain, right? So finding factories, getting intellectual property, finding factories, all of these things. So we worked through those processes together as well. Sourcing a product at this quality at a distance was a challenge. We had some fits and starts. We ultimately ended up with, I think, the manufacturer who we have today, who's really gotten the quality extremely consistent over time, right? Do you want to add some flavor to that? Because I know that was a long.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think in the end, so we started working with the current factory almost 5 years ago, or I think it has been 5 years ago, and they're amazing. And when we knew we had to leave the one previous to this one, I had tasked you with helping me find, like 3 viable candidates, and then let's, interview them and really figure it out. And I think we nailed it, or you nailed it. And we've just, I mean, I've grown with the factory, and I mean, I can't even tell you, like, if you are manufacturing goods, just ensure that you have, good quality control, good quality assurance, that you're working with a reputable factory that, is communicating with you and understands your needs, because things can go off the rails pretty quick, and it can be very costly. And it can, not only from a financial standpoint, but, from a reputation standpoint. So you just need to be really, really careful with who you're partnering with from a factory standpoint, or just in general, really. But we found a really great home, and, I'm thrilled to be doing business with them for the past 5 years.
Yeah, that's great. So this product was being sold direct to consumer. Did you start going into retailers at that point as well?
We started going into retail, I would say it was like maybe 2017 or 2018.
Okay.
And we'd gone into Sephora, and Sephora basically called me because of the dermaplaning tool, and that's specifically what they wanted to sell. So that was a huge, huge win, and I was a proud moment. We probably spent a few years in Sephora and then exited. But all the while, the D2C business and the Amazon business was scaling so much that it was actually, it actually weren't, wound up from a margin perspective being great. And we had been in Neiman Marcus and, a few other places, but ultimately I just decided that a D2C brand was really where my focus needed to be. And it's also sort of in line with my former background. And I just felt like, from a profitability standpoint, from a data standpoint, from a customer service standpoint, we really would, be able to do that better than a third party. And we have an amazing customer service team. I have a customer first policy here, and we strive to do the best that we can for everybody. And so having that control, because they're purchasing from us, was important to me, not only from a customer service standpoint, but also from an educational standpoint. I produce lots of videos and blog content and things that we can share with our customers to help them with their skin concerns, with how to use our products, how to, and then just being able to reach out to us. Hey, whatever it is, whether it's like my package got lost or I've got severe acne, and anything in between. And so that's really important to me.
Yeah, yeah, and you really impressed me with, you were very good at setting and protecting your margins along the way. So of course we worked to get the best possible price from our supplier, and that was important. But quality, we had to make sure that was at a certain quality level. And then you were, this device, retails for, is it $75?
Yep, it's 75.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times consumers don't really understand. They just think they see like the plastic one versus ours. And they don't understand the level of detail that goes into it, the cost that goes into it, and then the cost of running an operation, and as a small business as well. But the materials that we chose, the amount of money and time that you and I spent just designing it, then all of the money that I had to spend to build the tools to make the tool. So there's a lot that goes into the whole process, and then so you need a high margin to be able to pay for all of those things, and then also to be able to market it. And I knew that in this space, I was going to need a high margin business, especially because I was self-funded and wasn't celebrity backed or anything like that. And so I was going to need a high margin business in order to be able to pay for the things that I needed to pay for to be able to get the company out in the market.
Yeah. And those people who wanted sort of the lowest price product out there,
and those just aren't our customer.
That's not a StackedSkincare.
And they were buying something else anyways. They were buying the eyebrow shapers.
Yeah, right.
And it was just like, that's fine. You're
Right.
Yeah, you're going to irritate your skin and you're just not you're not our customer because
Exactly.
we are a more elevated product. But that's because there is a die cast aluminum handle, there's a replaceable blade, and there's a whole team of people here that can help support the customer needs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think that knowing your customer and staying focused on that, because there's always the temptation. It's like, boy, we could really drop the price, and we could drop the quality of the product and sell a lot more of these potentially at retail. I've never seen you do that. I've always seen you keep it high and understanding who your customer and who your brand is. So
Yeah, and I think we've built, the product line's now been a little over 10 years. We had our 10-year anniversary this year. And, so we have a customer base that we've been, servicing for a very long time. And I think that would be a disservice to them to all of a sudden just be like, oh, now you know, we're not that premium brand. And it's with everything that we do, all of the tools that you and I built together and, the skincare products. I'm very specific with and very intentional with anything that I put out in the market for our customers.
yeah,
I don't just like launch products to launch products because I don't think that that's how you need to take care of your skin. I like one-stop shop products. Like I like a serum that's going to do, many things. I want a peel that's going to do many things. I want a tool that's going to, so I'm a minimalist in life in general. And I feel like your skincare routine doesn't need to be 10 steps.
yeah,
So, find ingredients and formulations that can do multiple things and then combine it with our tools. And that's how you're going to get those results without having to spend an hour in the bathroom.
yeah, yeah. That's great. Uh, so transitioning to the microneedling tool, can you explain to the audience what microneedling is?
Yeah.
How it's effective?
So microneedling, there's the format that we did is a microneedling roller. There's a stamper and a roller. We went with a roller. And these are just hundreds of tiny little needles. For home, it's cosmetic needling. These are going to be 0.3 millimeters or less. If you're in a professional setting, they'll be 0.5 millimeters up to like 2 millimeters. And what it's doing is it's doing two things. It's going to help stimulate collagen production, and it's going to drive products down in deeper to make those active ingredients a lot more effective. So it's basically creating little micro channels in your skin. The longer the needles, the more collagen stimulation you're going to get. For cosmetic needling, you're still going to get some collagen stimulation, but what it's really doing is really help to optimize the serums. So basically, if you're spending money on serums and peels, combining it with this tool is really going to maximize that. And so we took that same basic design. I love this design. It's a beautiful tool. So like what I said, when I first launched, I had just like, a white label one that I was purchasing, and I really wanted to up level it. So when you and I started working together, we started right away on both dermaplaning and microneedling. We launched first with dermaplaning because I'd had that other tool. So we got the dermaplaning out the door, and then we immediately went to work on this one. And same concept of the aluminum handle, the die-cast aluminum handle with a replaceable roller head. And I just think the two tools like have just a really sleek look, and they're really nice luxury. Like I want to put them on my counter, and
There's we worked hard to give them a family appearance
Yep.
together. And this one, this was sort of the microneedling tool is a different ergonomic approach, right? Where all of a sudden it fits in the hand that has the curve and doing that. And then partially for manufacturing to remove some of the material to keep it from getting too heavy, but also sort of creating a nice thumb grip area underneath or finger grip area to really hold on to this. It's there. And it's tries to like, as when this one was kind of a straight thing, this is an arc, right? It's an arc and a cylinder at the end of it, trying to keep it really understandable for the consumer, letting the emphasis be around the head here. And this one, the cover removes, and it feels, again, it's the same. It's consistently the same up to it. And then there's difference here. And that's obviously where the business end of it is. Thinking about ergonomically and how that's used and how the fingers are used on it. And then the cover does we did a hole on one side, not the other. And then, because it was like, well, how do we get a cover on this thing and not bend the needles over? Because they're all sticking up here and we didn't want to damage those in any way. And so the idea was that with the cover was to put a spindle in the center of it, and that spindle indexes with that hole, and that goes on and doesn't, it kind of there's a friction fit to it, so it doesn't fall off. That it create some grooves in it to make sure that that didn't rotate. So we kept iterating on that. And then on the side here, we put these sort of little affordances here for how to remove it. And whereas the dermaplaning tool was sort of a slide in, this one really wanted to be a pull. So we, pulled it and create, again, that snap and that quality feel when they go back together. And so it all feels like it's kind of one thing together. So once again, this is one material, very recyclable, very reusable, will last forever, almost forever, right? And then these, yes, unfortunately end up in landfill, but a small part of the product ends up in landfill instead of the whole thing. So I don't know if
I mean, we do have some customers, and I'm like, well, you can take the plastic cap off and recycle that.
Yeah.
I just think it's, it's the that bit, because it's combining metal and plastic. I think that's why you can't. But we do the best we can. It's hard to be completely sustainable as a beauty brand, but we do the best that we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this tool came out great. Our customers love it. Those who use it, we have subscription on our website for the refill packs, and a good chunk of the people that use that are on subscription. So we know that people are using it and loving it. Same with the dermaplaning tool.
Yep, exactly. So and then we, actually we worked on a lot of products in between along the way. Some that didn't, many that didn't come to fruition, right? But we went down that path of discovery and found issues with it, or competitive products that were going to make it difficult to get into the market, or just didn't feel like there was the need there, that segment of the market wasn't growing as much.
One of them, I think, is still an interesting idea. We had a stamper for the dermaplaning tool handle, and I ultimately decided not to do it because I thought it would cannibalize our microneedling roller head. But I think it was a really cool design, and I still love the idea, and I still think about like maybe we should do it anyway. But like we've had that's one that I remember we worked on a lot, and just ultimately decided I wasn't going to go to market with it for that reason.
Right. And I've got a box of stuff here, which I won't show. We talked about.
They were never bad ideas. Just, I mean, most of them we launched.
Yeah, we did. It was most of them. But, market timing is important, right? Where are we in the phase? And it's like, is now the right time to go to market with this? Or is it like, hold off on this, or looking for new materials and new technology, or maybe, 2 months later, we think of some twist that we hadn't thought of before that makes it extremely viable in a way that it hadn't been before. So, that's the creative process, right? Of dwelling in that ambiguity and and also being, I think what's great about our relationship was we're pretty honest with each other. We're very direct. You give very direct feedback, and I love that, because like, that's not going to work. I don't like that. But what about this? And how it's like, oh, okay, well, let's explore that and try that out. And so
one of the things that's also I just thought about is and I've done this with a few, and I remember like the foot scraper is like, I'll take video of me with the problem. Like I might have something, that I'm like, I'm currently using this product, but it sucks for this reason. And I'll take a video of me like exfoliating my feet and send it to you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And I was like, here's a problem. I think we could solve it. And that's also one interesting way I think that we work together too. And come up with ideas.
You're kind of my sister, because I've seen a lot of videos of you doing stuff in the bathroom. And it was like, okay, cool. I'm like, I'm
like, this is an awkward thing. Can we fix this?
Right.
Yeah.
Not to be published. So then you tasked me with like, so part of this whole process is after microneedling, it's cooling down the face, right? And then there's swelling. So cryo rollers, ice rollers. Do you want to describe for the audience what those are?
Yeah, ice rolling is just, a really nice way to cool and calm the skin, whether you have sensitive skin condition like eczema, if you want a deep puff under your eyes, if you're going through menopause, they just feel really nice. And again, this was a situation where I really wanted my own ice roller. There was a lot of them out in the market, but none of them that I thought They were like either too big for the face or they didn't fit the contours of the face, and they felt cheap. And so yeah, so we worked together on this tool, and she's been she's won like 8 awards, featured in Oprah in print, which was amazing. And I love this tool. I think it came out great. It goes amazing with the other two. And basically, so you have an exfoliation tool, which is the dermaplaning tool, the microneedling tool, which is going to stimulate collagen and drive products down deeper. And this is going to cool and calm the skin, to help with inflammation, redness. It's great for acne, great for depuffing, and also to sculpt the face. If you like, some women really get into that whole sculpting concept. And also, it's also really great for, I actually use it for lymphatic drainage as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's got a lot of purposes.
And so this product, when you tasked me with doing it, they sort of look like ink rollers almost. They're these kind of big cylinders with handles on them, and you like you're rolling out ink or something to do silk screening or something. And then I think we talked, and it's like, well, the face is not particularly flat. There's really no flat part of the face. And when people are, trying to do it in their eye sockets and around their ears and the nooks and crannies around the nose, it really became kind of clear, like, well, how do I get in there with this flat cylindrical roller? So, so we came up with this asymmetric design, which allowed there to be, sort of an open on one side, closed on the other side, and keeping that there, and a handle very similar to the microneedling tool that was there. So same kind of curve. This handle, we looked at wood, we looked at metal, we talked about all sorts of things. We looked at a removable head, which didn't make sense quite as much in this case because you're really not replacing this, but kept the same curve and decided to make this out of a plastic material because when it goes in the freezer to get it cold, you didn't want to have a metal, pick up a very cold metal thing as well. That wouldn't be comfortable in our hand. So, and I love how these products have pronouns that they're all she.
Yes, of course they are.
Of course they are. Of course they are. And this is, this is one of my favorite children. You're not supposed to have your favorite children. But and so then what shape should the head be if it's not a cylinder? And it was, what's more pure than the egg, right? The egg, the egg is just timeless. There's so much efficiency. It represents so much in our society, maybe going too deep, but it represents fertility in some cultures and all of that. So, so I went, to the egg carton in the kitchen and I started measuring eggs. I had the calipers.
I never knew this.
Yeah. And I measured different sections because I'm like, well, what is that magic profile of an egg? There's a strength. If you take an egg on the sort of the top and bottom and squeeze on it, it actually won't break in general because it's such a pure form. It's such a pure, strong form to do. So anyway, so measured that, tried it. We built a bunch of prototypes. Like what was the right scale for the face for different faces. So we built prototypes and tested those. We worked really deeply with our manufacturer who we had found, who we love. And they the thing was like, yeah, I don't want a screw here to hold it together because that's like probably the easiest way to do it. But it's like, no, I don't want a screw there. And I want these tolerances between the plastic and the metal here to be really tight. And I want the same thing down here. And I want it to feel weighty and have a density and stay cold for a longer period of time. And when it rolls, I don't want it to roll continuously. I want it to roll and then stop. I want there to be some resistance in doing that, that you and I had talked about. Well, it feels a little bit better if there's a little tiny bit of resistance on it. So the assembly process, the engineering of this, the materials, the design of it, all of those were happening at the same time, really thinking about, trying to create this product. And I'm really, really pleased with the way it, we kind of got pretty much everything we wanted.
Nailed it. Yeah, no, I think it came out, it looks beautiful. And I think that the end, the cap was the clutch move at the end. We're like, we need a silicone cap. And just to keep it nice and clean in the freezer. Cause a lot of people do. Yeah. They don't want to just throw it in there. And so that was I
Yeah.
think that was like the chef's kiss.
Yeah. It was, and it was a little bit. This came from looking at, I used to do ceramics, and before I was a designer, I did a lot of ceramics. And there are these ceramic pots from Northern Africa. Northern Africa pots have rounded bottoms instead of flat bottoms because is predominantly sand is the terrain. And so if you're carrying something or moving it, you want to put it down. A rounded bottom is better in the sand than a flat bottom. And so, these sort of amphora, they have a little rim at the top. And it's like, okay, well, can we take that and, does that work? And it did. Thankfully, it worked really well. And so that's when you're putting it in the freezer, it doesn't get coffee and, butter and frost on it and all these. Well, it can get some frost on it, but where it kind of fits on well. And then it also, you can set it down on a surface with that as well. And so I love this little silicone booty that goes on it.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
It was like it was like the good finishing piece.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree. So that's kind of, those were those three, those three products really work together, I think, well as a family.
Yeah. And then we came out with the other blade for the dermaplaning tool.
Right.
So we have 2 blades for that. And then we also came up with that foot system. So yeah, we've done a lot of stuff together.
Yeah, we, just sort of maybe quickly touch on this, but as a development, you wanted to do kind of a booty.
A sustainable foot peel solution.
Right.
So there's a lot of foot peels on the market, and they're just like these plastic bags that, they're single-use plastic bags. They're not like the most comfortable thing. And I just thought we could innovate around this. So I said, let's do a sustainable foot peel where you could have a reusable shoe, and then you would buy a bottle that would have multiple treatments in it. So instead of just buying plastic bags and throwing them out, you could reuse them. And then ultimately was thinking we could also not only have the peel, but have a mask as well. So you could use the booties for multiple purposes.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one was a little bit more of we wanted to do one size that would be good for most everybody, that could be reused, so that they weren't taking this plastic bag, using it once and throwing it away with these chemicals in it. That didn't seem very sustainable. And so we started off kind of building things, sketching and trying different things. And they were in 2 different halves, so we could put them on different people's feet to try and understand. This would ultimately be a silicone rubber, but wanted to understand if it's one size fits most, what size is that? And how, where it wants to be snug enough, because you're going to wear this for 5 or 10 minutes around the house while you're 1 hour or an hour.
Yeah.
So you're going to live in this thing. So what should that look like? So we did, this was, and then we came up with this silicone booty. This was the first one that we did. And lo and behold, it was too big. So it was a little
clownish. It was a little clownish looking.
It was a little clownish, right? This was almost based on like a glare up felt slipper or something like that. And that was, that was a hiccup. That was like, I was upset that we'd sort of come up with something and put it together, and it wasn't the right size. And it didn't really feel like it had the right feel to it. So we went back to the drawing board and started working on something a little more sleek that fit the foot a little bit better. And again, 2 halves so that we could try it on different feet. So started building this one, and that
I was like sending you shoes. I'd be like going like whatever 10
Allbirds,
slippers or something. Yeah.
Right. Okay. It should be this size. And
so what about something like that? Yeah.
Measuring those and putting them together, and talking to people in the footwear industry, to talking to them about sizing and foot lasts and all these things, and ended up coming out with this version here, which has the little sort of nice hole in the back for pulling it up. You put your foot in there with the peel, and it sits in there, and you pat around the house in this for a little while. And this, I don't know, I was really happy with the way this turned out. I thought it was a really beautiful product, and this maybe commercially hasn't been quite the reach that you want, but
I mean, one of the emails I was referencing, actually, somebody emailed us about the foot peel, and he was like, I mean, I was like in tears after I read it. He said he's been in pain for so many years. He hasn't been able to, walk well because he had so many horrible calluses, and this is the only thing that ever helped him. And he was like, "Thank you so much."
Wow.
And it did win a new beauty award. I think we didn't have the marketing muscle for it. I think it's a great product. We sold out of the booties, which is a good thing, and we still have that foot peel, so we do have people still on subscription. I think that this is a product where, you know, I might need to figure out the pricing strategy. I mean, I really tried to be aggressive with it because I think consumers in their mind, they're like, the single pack like of a known brand is like $25, right? So how do you compete with that? Because you buy the shoes once, right? Like you buy the handle once, and then it's going to be less expensive because you're just buying the bottle, and I can compete on that price. But that's where I've got to really kind of go back and think about like what's the best way to market this product, because I think it could be a very successful product. But I think consumers in their mind, they're like, well, I can just go buy this single one for $25. So it is also a specific market, right? Of somebody who's going to care and also wants a nicer experience, right? Like I don't really want to walk around for an hour with like plastic bags on my feet when I can have just like, a nice silicone shoe. And I care about the environment. So while we did sell out, I haven't brought it back yet, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to. I'm just kind of rethinking a pricing strategy and trying to figure out what makes the most sense for the market.
Yeah. I'm still hoping to go out and see some women having lunch and someone
just exfoliating their feet while they're like
or
sipping on their rosé
as fashion, or maybe on a runway. But that's it's like they love it so much that they just have to wear it all the time. That hasn't happened yet, but okay. So great to run through all those products. What advice would you give people? It's been it's been an 11-year road developing these products, and even a longer road in your business. What advice would you give to those who are interested in thinking about doing something like this, who are maybe in the middle of it and hitting the struggles and having a hard time sort of moving to the next step?
Hire you.
I did not say
no,
that.
you didn't. No, that was not prompted at all. I mean, I think I got really lucky by being introduced to you. So, I guess that, all kidding aside, finding the right industrial designer to help you achieve your vision from A to Z, right? Like we talked about, which is understanding the product and what it does, and your vision of, whether it's a luxury market or it's a mass market, making sure that, you understand how the factories work and having those relationships. So I think, that's been pivotal in terms of my success because, I mean, I could have hired somebody who came up with a completely different design and it flopped. Mm-hmm. So I think, that's a big part if you're talking about, designing and developing products that are hard goods, is making sure that you're working with somebody that really understands your vision.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Well, the feeling's mutual. Great clients make great results, great projects, and you've been a great client. And there's a relationship that forms in doing this, and that's really important, and the trust that builds, and what we've been able to do to be very direct with each other. Board and
like it's once you do one project and then you sort of get into a groove with that person and they start to understand the brand values, like what like if I come to you with an idea, you automatically are like, okay, like I have to use these types of materials. Like I can tell by our conversations and things that it's like you understand what's going to fit in with the brand and the product line. Where so I think another is finding that person and sticking with them and continuing to work with them, because I think they understand your brand essence over time.
Yeah.
And so it was sort of like we sort of developed some of the brand essence together, with the design and functionality of these tools.
Yeah, which is great, and it's that really has evolved. I've worked on dozens, if not hundreds, of products in my career, and these are these are among the ones that I'm most proud of. And I
Oh,
really,
I love that.
right. I love the story. I love the collaboration. I love the result, and I love the lives that it's changed and helped. And it's just it's great. So,
Aw.
so let me.
I want to share a quick story though. When we first met, when we were first introduced, and it was our first phone call, and you're probably going to want to share. And it goes along with what I was saying, which is, but as much as like I was interviewing Ian was interviewing me. And I think that, in hindsight, like it was good. And I understood he wanted to work with somebody who was serious, who had a vision, who he believed could actually bring one of his products to life and to market. And so I think, when you're looking for your industrial designer, I think it's good for you to have like you're interviewing them, but they should be asking a lot of questions of you and some hard questions. And I think that will help reveal to you if this is the right person for you or not. Because I think you asked a lot of really hard questions that made me think. And it also made me realize, I need to, I want to make sure it's a partnership at that point. And so you really want to make sure you're working with the person who you can really collaborate with and have fun doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's bumps in the road. And I think when you build that trust and the better you are at collaborating, you get through those bumps in the road. And we've had some fairly serious bumps in the road that we've had to go through that we haven't talked about today, but that's great. So
for another chat.
That's enough. The whole other
we'll do a doomsday version.
Right. The downside of starting your own business. Well, I want to really thank you for taking all this time to talk with me and to sort of share your experience with others. It's been a great journey. I look forward to continuing it with you. And again, thank you for everything you've brought to this relationship.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. It's really been a pleasure working with you, and I hope I spin out another idea soon, so we can get to work.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.